Welcome to the 12th episode of the Tertius Times. In keeping with the theme from yesterday, in honor of the Labor Day holiday here in the US, we're now going to take a look at the modern phenomenon of slavery and trafficking included in two reports, as well as an informative graphic. This first report is probably the most extensive information on modern slavery, and it's from the Walk Free Foundation's 2018 Global Slavery Index. Is found in their report, Modern Slavery, a Hidden Everyday Problem. As defined by the report, modern slavery, quote, refers to situations of exploitation that a person cannot refuse or leave because of threats, violence, coercion, deception, abuse of power, or deception, unquote. The report estimates 40.3 million people were modern slaves as of 2016. Of that number, about 71% were women and girls. In addition, quote, 24.9 million people were in forced labor and 15.4 million people were living in a forced marriage, unquote. The report identifies top 5 products at risk of modern slavery in each of the G20 countries, which represent the biggest economies in the world, including, quote, laptops, computers, and mobile phones, apparel and accessories, fish, cocoa, and timber, unquote. It also points out 10 countries, North Korea, Eritrea, Burundi, the Central African Republic, Afghanistan, Mauritania, South Sudan, Pakistan, Cambodia, and Iran, quote, with the highest prevalence of modern slavery, unquote. And many of those countries experience high levels of conflict, a contributing factor. Although it is difficult to obtain accurate information, the report finds North Korea as the worst violator for incidents of modern slavery, where an estimated 10% of the population is enslaved. Unfortunately, even some of the most highly developed countries have seen modern slavery operate within their boundaries. Some G20, including, quote, China, Brazil, France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and the United States, unquote, have enacted legislation to curb the distribution of slave-made products into their respective countries. Argentina, Australia, Canada, India, Indonesia, Japan, Mexico, Russia, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and Turkey, as of 2018, have no such laws. Other related topics pointed out in the report include human trafficking for organ harvesting and children recruited for armed forces duty. The report also contains separate sections on the fishing industry and cocoa agriculture. The latter is focused especially on 2 countries, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, or the Ivory Coast. It then goes on to examine modern slavery by region, where it found Africa and Asia and the Pacific were the first and second highest levels, respectively, of where slavery was occurring, as seen on this graph. Governmental intervention, although important and a vital force in the abolition of modern slavery, the report also points out that traditions and systems that perpetuate and propagate the discrimination and exploitation of women is what drives this humane practice. Of course, the comment can be applied to the discrimination and exploitation of men and boys as well. A drastic shift in societal attitudes is the ultimate solution to eradicating slavery in all forms for all time. This graphic by enslaverynow.com shows the various forms modern slavery can take. The various aspects of slavery include domestic servitude, sex trafficking, forced labor, bonded labor, child labor, and forced marriage. The most up-to-date information on human trafficking, the vehicle through which modern slavery is sustained, however, is included in the United States Department of State Report 2021, Trafficking in Persons Report. In fact, this equally detailed report indicates that, quote, trafficking in persons, human trafficking, and modern slavery are umbrella terms often used interchangeably to refer to a crime whereby traffickers exploit and profit at the expense of adults or children by compelling them to perform labor or engage in commercial sex, unquote. The report obviously postdates the beginning and spread of the COVID-19 pandemic and concludes that, quote, COVID-19 generated conditions that increased the number of people who experienced vulnerabilities to human trafficking and interrupted existing and planned anti-trafficking interventions, unquote. The, quote, global economic downturn, unquote, along with the larger population vulnerable to trafficking and the adaptation of traffickers themselves, complicated its enforcement activities and exacerbated an increase in its practice. The effect of the pandemic is emphasized often and makes up a substantial focus of the report. Some of the highlights of the report include a 2017 finding that the, quote, IOM, or International Organization for Migration, estimated that 41% of child trafficking experiences are facilitated by family members and or caregivers. Another relevant item not included in the 2018 Walk-Free report is the potential genocidal activity in the Western Chinese province of Xinjiang, where, quote, the People's Republic of China, PRC, has carried out a mass detention and political indoctrination campaign against Uyghurs, unquote. Survivors testify to the atrocities carried out there, and the report adds that, unlike many other nations, the country itself is the trafficker. Both this report and the Walk-Free report contain many helpful graphs and charts. The Walk-Free report, in addition, provides a number of impactful photographs as well. I encourage you to read both reports for much more information. Pray for all leaders in all countries that they would seek ways to enforce the abolition of trafficking and slavery. Pray for the current victims of slavery, its survivors, and those being pulled by their desperation or situation into the dark depths of this inhumane industry. Pray for those on this side of slavery that we may stay informed on the issue and search for ways we can contribute to the abolition of modern day slavery. Pray also for those who are enslavers, that they recognize their inhumane practice, free those whom they control, and seek to improve the lives who were formerly enslaved. Thank you once again for listening to this Tertius Times podcast, and I will see you tomorrow.